Questions for the, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Welcome. Now, which one? You're,
Color.
okay, James Cole,
Craig,
Craig
right before James,
Color, okay.
okay? Chairman Hoops, Vice Chair Ray, Ranking Member Smith, and members of the Ohio House Public Utilities Committee, my name is Craig Color, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to testify in opposition to House Bill 118. I left home at 6:30 this morning, so I got here in time to testify. I think I probably could have slept in a little bit, but that's not your fault anyway. Raul and I, the previous guy, grew up as neighbors in the same township in Mark Center, Defiance County, and we share some of these same views, obviously, on this bill. As you know from previous committee hearings, this bill establishes a referendum process at the township level for all wind and solar projects. I know that you have a full committee agenda, most of which is behind you, and I appreciate your attention to my testimony. I represent fourth-generation family ownership in land in Defiance County. My family invested in land 120 years ago as a means of making a living. My great-grandfather and grandfather cleared the trees off of much of that land in order to farm it. They owned the land. No one told them they could not do that. My grandfather sold the gas and oil rights on that land back in the 50s. He owned the land. No one told him he could not do that. In the 60s, we transitioned from corn and wheat to soybeans because it's a better cash crop. Then in the 80s, my father put the entire farm into the federal CRP program and thus ended the family farming operation. He owned the land. No one told him he could not do that. Over the last 25 years, we have cash rented the land to a local farmer in an effort to make a return on our family investment. We own the land. No one is telling us we can't do that. As a property owner and now a solar lease holder in Defiance County, I have serious concerns about this legislation as it turns business decisions I make into local political decisions. Additionally, bills like House Bill 118 jeopardize my ability as a property owner to utilize my land to develop a solar energy project. This legislation is adding uncertainty to an already cumbersome process, and it will have an adverse impact on economic development in our state. I appreciate the concerns shared by the proponents of this bill. I respect their opinion and their right to come before you, as they previously have, and express their support for the bill. But in complete fairness, what trees I choose to clear, what crops I choose to grow, or who I choose to rent my land to is strictly my business, especially when it does not affect them. I understand concerns raised about wind energy, but when it comes to solar energy, why should someone who lives on the other end of the township have a voting right over how I use my land? Giving a local referendum option to the local township is politicizing my business decisions that I make in the best interests of my family, and will only serve to further pit neighbor against neighbor in small communities like mine. House Bill 118 would set a very dangerous precedent for our state by giving locals more than a voice in how someone utilizes their property. In Northwest Ohio, mega farms have created far greater concerns over the last decade than any solar project ever will. Those concerns have fallen on deaf ears for the most part. If you pass this proposed legislation, you will have neighbors who are concerned with groundwater contamination, depletion of the water table, air quality issues, and the like, camped out on your doorstep, insisting on the same type of control over these other controversial businesses. I urge you not to open that Pandora's box. If this bill is about local control, no one appreciates that more than me. While the intention may be good, the methodology needs some work. Either a township is open for renewable energy business or it's not. Voting on solar projects after much time and money has been invested is counterproductive to good business and healthy economic development. In regards to the Ohio Power Siting Board process, it is my understanding that this committee has received testimony that there are very few opportunities for public input in the Power Siting Board process. As I've come to understand, the Ohio Power Siting Board does indeed provide opportunities for any individual to participate in that process without the need for an attorney. The individuals who comprise this board are not just bureaucrats, but people with extensive technical and policy experience in all things related to the environmental, agricultural, and even political aspects of the development of energy infrastructure. Finally, what you've been waiting for me to get to, Mr. Chairman, it has been 45 years since you and I exchanged opinions and elbows on a basketball court at Patrick Henry and Fairview High Schools, respectively.
I remember now. Yeah, okay. I was wondering why my
Yeah, it was his
shoulder
elbow
was
part,
hurting.
right? I want to thank you and the members of the committee for your time and for your attention here today. I respectfully urge you to oppose House Bill 118, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding my remarks.
Are there any questions? No comments. Any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman, for the chair. I'm really interested to know who won. Thank you.
I don't think we finished worse than second. I just remember they had a big guy on the team.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Next, we have James Caulfield. Caulfield. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a businessman from Harrison County. I own the second largest ranch in the state, 7,000 acres and 1,000 head of cattle. Harrison County is fairly remarkable in the sense in the early 1800s, it had the highest density of sheep in the world. It was that good farmland. In the 1940s, it had the highest number of millionaires in the state per capita. That was because of coal. In the past 10 years, then, we've had a pretty good run with gas and oil. Now, because of the coal mining in the pre-60 reclamation, the land was really ravaged with pits, and the topsoil at that time didn't have to be put on, et cetera. So it's non-tillable land. So there's something, you've got to figure out what to do with it. So cattle is one thing. The cattle business really is pretty break even. So we find ways to make money, and I'm getting to our subject here. We produce the cattle, they go then to our butcher shop, and then they go to our restaurant. So we have the whole supply chain. And my point is we figured out how to do it. We've got 160 acres of water, and we stocked them with paddlefish for the production of caviar. We have a large deer and turkey hunting operation with a 5,000 square foot lodge. And I'm very pro-solar and not pro-wind, with the idea of the wildlife in mind. Got a picture of an eagle today, a bald eagle. The lodge is rented almost every weekend. Water and gas pipelines go across our property. We have 3 commercial buildings which are full most of the time because we have the gas and oil operations going on. Now then, the idea is when they're slow, then those buildings are not full. And the idea of adding another industry and the construction and the time it takes is a big deal. There's a lot of discussion about high-speed internet, and we're funding it ourselves and have about 1/3 of the county done, and we'll have half shortly. We've entered into an agreement with Savian for the solar on 800 acres. The revenue from that would be about $720 a year, to give you an idea. Now, what do you do with that money? That supports everything else, and that activity makes every business better, whether we own it or not. It will help the electric infrastructure and roads, bring employment, which has been a big discussion. Something that has not been mentioned today is because we're farming, we're taxed at COUV rates, which is about 1/3 of normal rates. Well, that 800 acres could become non-COUV And gas and oil pads can too. And where's that money go? So it'll bring employment. In our case, there's 800 acres. There's nobody 800 acres under contract with Savion. There's no house within 2 miles. In short, I'm certain if this thing passed, we would influence the township enough that they would permit it. But there's no reason that we should have to ask. I'm strongly opposed to it. Every regulation requires time and money and hinders business. Somebody made a big mistake, whoever put this bill together, in putting wind and solar together. Wind has barely been mentioned today. On the subject of the referendum, we had a company in Florida that treated soil. And most of the soil was contaminated with petroleum products. And then one day, Florida changes a rule, and you're out of business. So I'm very hesitant to be involved with any business subject to politics. There's been a lot of discussion about property values. Imagine taking the opposite approach. You have property and a contract in place and a solar farm under production, and imagine the appreciation. Take some salesmanship. And something else that I haven't heard today. On these long-term leases, I think ours is 7 years plus 40. On the long-term leases, it's possible to do 1031s. And that is a tax-free exchange. So imagine somebody had land, has a solar farm, they wanted a bigger farm, they could just exchange it tax-free. I've done a bunch of them. So, any questions?
Any questions for our witness? Representative Stein.
Thank you for your testimony. And you are right, today has been devoid of any conversation related to wind development. Today's testimony has been, to my knowledge, 100% towards the approval of solar projects and what it brings to the table for the folks of a region. You and others have testified specifically that they have not necessarily been supportive of wind, but could you, if this were on 800 acres dedicated towards wind turbines, would you have the same thought process as to it's your choice, your farm, do with it what I like, irregardless of my neighbors that are going to see the shadow flicker and all the other issues related?
Well, I don't think they would, because we have so much business, and half of them work for us. Now then, I would be against wind for the sake of wildlife. So I hate to see that eagle chopped up.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Waiting around. We next have Michael Lutmer. Lutmer. Sorry. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hoops, and thank you for listening, and committee members, I'm sorry. Thank you for listening to my testimony today. I am, like I said, my name is Michael Lutmer, and I own a farm in Highland County on Sharpsville Road, and I'm part of the Palomino project, which is with Energex
Okay.
solar project. And I write the committee today to oppose House Bill 118. I believe that's a government proposal to restrict my land and restrict my land use arbitrarily and without reason. I consider House Bill 118 an attempted taking by government. As a farmer, I take on all the risk by Mother Nature. Diversification into a solar farm or project represents a unique opportunity to supplement my volatile farming income with an income stream that is fixed over the life of the project, which is 30 years. This is simply just good business practice because with Mother Nature, you never know what you're going to get from day to day, year to year. So I was surprised to read the bill sponsors believe they are allowing citizens of a township the ability to exercise their property rights through a public referendum and with regards to solar projects. What's next? Where can I park my truck? Where can I build my barn? Or how big my house can be? Now, the property rights referring to House Bill 118 are held by the person who writes the mortgage check. Solar development projects are heavily regulated. Community needs are looked at through an entire siting board process. While the outcome of this sitting decision may be long, uncertain, and costly, it is the elements contained in the permitting that results in the best outcome for the local community. Putting a solar project or my land use up for popularity vote by people who may never see my land as bad government policy. The current process throughout investigates the challenges and arrive at the conclusion that is based upon facts and comprised by the impacted parties, not by the entire town. House Bill 118 feels more like a political battle between energy sources than a land use effort. If the fate of power generating facilities were based upon popularity contest, we wouldn't have natural gas plants, electricity generation stations, or reliable electricity. So in closing, please vote no on House Bill 118 to preserve my rights to determine how my property will be used and my financial future will play out. As elected officials, it's your job to bring economic security and opportunity to Ohio. With data centers and tech companies coming to Ohio to locate and to power their facilities with green energy, we should be laying out the welcome mat and not chasing them away with backwards policies. Thank you once again.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? We appreciate your testimony because it's very important,
Absolutely.
bringing the people, so
Sure.
I appreciate you sticking around to offer your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Carpenter. Sarah's not here? Okay, do we have anybody else that would like to testify? And your name is? John? Okay, John, come on up, and we'll need to have you fill out a witness slip afterwards, just for our records. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Again, I'd like to thank Chair and representatives for having me today. My name is John Stockmeister. I'm a fifth generation beef, cattle, and hog operation. Me and my two younger brothers, we raise corn and wheat on our land, and we raise about 80 head of beef cattle, and we also raise about 1,200 head of hogs 4 times a year. I apologize, I don't do this much.
You're doing fine. You're okay.
My brothers and my family have been working in Seneca County. We're fifth generation. We've been around for 120 years. And the farming has changed, crops have changed, and how we steward the land have changed. And since 2008, we've been re-signing up for our lease with Apex Clean Energy for the wind turbines. And we've done extensive research, read, and even visited active wind farms to make sure that we were making the best decision for our land, our family's future, and our community at large. I know every farmer does this same diligence, and the decision we've reached was great for our farming operation and community. We're stewards of the land. We want to do what's best, and we follow strict, overwhelming guidelines from USDA, from ODA, and our local representatives, a pork checkoff, BQA. We're all certified. We have runoff strips to filter out the nitrogen that's running off of our land. We're working on changing nutrition for our animals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And there's extensive research, and the technology is there. We're prepared to adapt. We'd be willing to run an electric tractor up and down the fields. We just need to convince our people that we serve, which is you and our community, to buy local and stay local so we can operate local. With running electric, right now with the way the technology is, we've got to stay local in order to be able to run those kind of resources. So with that being said, you know, to answer your question about I believe it's Chair. To answer your question about communication, since 2008, my family and I have been meeting with Apex Clean Energy at least every 6 weeks, either for a landowner dinner, and we talk about specs, or just to visit and keep in communication, or if anybody has any questions. And to answer your question, how do we get the people on board? My question is have them work with the farmers. And then it goes up from there, from the farmer to the people and construction, and then just all the way up to you guys. You should be the deciding factor. That's why we have you here. And like I said, this is huge. Like, me and my brothers all work 40-hour-a-week jobs, you know, and we work 40 hours each on the farm every week. So all three of us are putting 80 hours a week in this operation, plus to keep our insurance and our homes afloat, you know, we're working 40 hours off the farm, okay? So profit margins are so low, my tractor costs more than my house, okay? And that's not including the implements and stuff that's got to pull. You know, we just love what we do. We love to be able to serve our people. When this whole pandemic hit, it made me laugh. I finally felt like I was needed. All these big corporations, Tyson, shut down, can't keep their employees healthy. JBS Global shut down. Who did you guys lean on? You leaned on the small butcher shops and the small farmers that had beef cattle, because we could keep our employees healthy and we could produce food, good, healthy, nutritious food for our people. That's why I encourage to buy local, and this could be a great opportunity to keep us small guys in business, because when the next pandemic hits in 10 years, we might not be in business to save you. And everything else I have here, everybody else has pointed out, and I'm not going to waste any more of your time. And it's just an honor to be able to. And there's one other thing. I mean, I don't know why people are so against the wind turbines, other than they just don't want to look at them. I can't get a direct from my local people that live out in the country. They can't give me a direct answer of why they don't like them, other than they just don't want to look at them. You know, I mean, I don't want to look at ugly electrical lines that we've had for years, but you know, it's just part of adapting.
Right.
We have to adapt. If we don't, we're going to go backwards.
Yeah.
It's part of being a businessman. You know, these groups are so abrasive that are against these wind turbines. You know, they dump garbage on my land. They cuss out my friends and relatives. Most of the landowners in Seneca County are in their 70s and 80s, and if you got a group that is this aggressive, you know, they don't intimidate me and my brothers because we're young guys. But do you think people landowners in their 70s and 80s want confrontation, physical or verbal. I wouldn't want that. Not if I'm in my 70s and 80s, I'm wore out. Maybe not be able to hold my own when I'm in my 70s and 80s, you know? And like I said, Apex has been really great about educating the farmers, and we educate them. We're working great together. They're doing a great job educating the community. Every year since 2008, they've had a tent at all of our fairs. It says Apex Clean Energy. They hand out T-shirts to the kids. They hand out pens, and they play games. Hey, you can win a pen, you know. It's great for the kids. Kids enjoy it. They get free T-shirts. They win free T-shirts. They're educating the community.
How many windmills? How many windmills do you have on your land?
I don't have any on my land, and I'm not getting any. I'm signed up for a substation for the wind turbines.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Yep.
that's important too. So
Yeah.
okay.
So I mean, I'm signed up in the Good Neighbor program, and if the project goes through, I would get to sell them the land to build the substation. So I'm not going to get any return on that land.
Okay.
It's gone. Once I sell it to them, it's gone.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming in today. I know, taking a day away from farming is
Well, I've been up since
big-
6:30 this
Yeah,
morning, and
so-
I had my brothers had to
Make them work it off.
they had
Okay.
to fill in for me so I could come and make our point for me and them. And
Okay. Well, tonight go on the Ohio Channel, and then you can tell your brothers where you were for the day, so they don't think you were just having fun today. So okay. Appreciate you coming in.
thank you for hearing me.
Okay, we need to have you sign a witness slip too.
I apologize.
It's all right on the table in front, right over there. Just fill that out. And who are you?
I am Ann Fry,
Hi, Ann. Welcome.
Chair Hoops, Vice Chair Ray, Ranking Member Smith, and the members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to offer opponent testimony on House Bill 118. My name is Ann Fry. I'm a retired teacher, and my husband and I are landowners and farmers in Seneca County. And I'd like to talk about the wind mills today. Today, I have brought several hundred letters from people who were unable to be here today. I would like to enter these for the record.
Okay. Yep, we'll take them. You can just put them right here on the counter. Thank you. And what we do with it, we'll put them into the computer, and they'll be on as public information.
Very good.
Public record.
I taught for 35 years in the Seneca East School District. The Seneca East teachers were the lowest paid in the state of Ohio. As a result of the DeRolf versus State of Ohio decision, the Ohio Supreme Court ordered that our state government enact a constitutional school funding system. After that decision, I had high hopes that my salary would increase. This landmark decision was over 25 years ago. As of December 2020, the legislators of the state of Ohio still have failed to complete the assignment of the Ohio Supreme Court. If I were a teacher in New Albany, Bexley, or Delaware schools, my monthly pension would be much higher. But my Ohio legislators failed me by not coming up with a fair and equal formula to fund public schools in Ohio. As a result of the failure of my Ohio legislators to fairly and adequately fund public schools in the state of Ohio, in 2008, I purchased land and signed a lease with a wind company and started receiving needed income to supplement my salary and future state teachers' retirement pension. The legislators of the state of Ohio are once again enacting legislation to decrease my retirement pension. House Bill 118 will allow people who do not own property or pay property tax the ability to dictate what I can use my land for. This bill was so hastily written that I was not even asked for my input. My legislator, Senator Reineke, did not ask me what retribution I desired if my income was impacted by limiting my land use. Will my property taxes be lowered? Will my state pension be increased because a person not owning land or paying property tax did not want to see a tall pole in the distance? This morning I saw 600 feet skyscrapers in the beautiful capital. I saw cranes 600 feet in the sky. I didn't see anyone moaning and groaning about that. Mr. Reineke added recreational vehicles and camper sales to his business. Did I get to vote if I thought that was appropriate? There have been many other larger economic developments in Seneca County and across the state of Ohio. I did not get to vote on those, and nor should I have. This is a country founded on and believing in private property. Why should others have a say in my investments on my own land? This legislation is a massive and unacceptable threat to private property rights, my property rights, the property rights of all Ohioans. I worked all my life to bring a brighter future for students, and now my own future looks dimmer because of this proposed violation of my property rights. We live in an unzoned township. Our neighbors live in an unzoned township. If you purchased or built a home in my township, you chose to live there, you do that knowing that fact, knowing that your neighbor is able to do what they wish in order to be productive on their land. Whether that's putting up a new grain silo, a new hog barn, a cell phone tower, or yes, farming the wind. I would like to understand why wind and solar farms are the only targets for House Bill 118. As a friend once stated, this is a slippery slope. During the course of the pandemic, I've read that some Ohio legislators refused to wear masks in the name of personal liberty. I can certainly understand someone's individual liberty, but I cannot understand how some of those same lawmakers believe someone else should have the power to tell me how to use my own land. My Ohio legislators have dragged their feet to complete their assignment by the Ohio Supreme Court to fairly fund public schools in the state of Ohio. This landmark decision was over 25 years ago. Perhaps our legislators would have created a constitutional school funding program if there were a $60 million bribe attached to the assignment. Looking back, I was so naive to think that this was an honest and straightforward process. In 2008, I signed with the wind company to supplement my income and retirement pension because my lawmakers did not do their job. I believed that the Ohio Power Siting Board would examine the studies of building the wind farm and fairly decide the outcome of the research. When the projects were announced, Mr. Reineke proudly appeared with local school superintendents and local newspapers to celebrate the welcome income for schools, towns, and townships. Then the water darkened. Political bribes, big outside money groups. This process has severely darkened my view of how democracy works in Ohio. Mr. Chairman and members, please support rural landowners trying to make a living. Restore my faith in the inherent fairness of Ohio government and oppose House Bill 118. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify, and I would be pleased to take any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for
Ann Fry.
Ann Fry? How long did you teach?
35 years at Seneca East, and then I was an adjunct instructor at Heidelberg University, and I substitute taught until the pandemic, until a year ago.
What class did you teach?
I taught art.
Okay.
Art 7 through 12, and then I got my master's degree in classroom technology, and then that's what I taught at Heidelberg University. I taught technology to students who wanted to become teachers.
Okay, excellent. My wife taught for 35 years too, and she subs now.
Right, I love subbing.
Yeah,
I
okay, well,
love
great. Well,
subbing.
thank you for coming in today.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Where
I
is,
don't
where
think
should I?
there's, yeah, you will need to sign a sheet. Yes,
Yeah, I submitted a form, actually. I submitted a form last week.
and who are you?
Squire John Galbraith.
Okay, John.
Here's, I'll put a
I
form.
think this is,
Should I put-
yep,
I have
well,
a copy of the form. Should I put it there?
yeah, you can just put it right there. How did you submit it?
To email
Okay, well, I mean,
to the Public Utilities
okay,
Commission.
all right.
So,
Well, welcome.
anyways, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Hoops, Vice Chair Ray, and Ranking Chair Smith, and members of the House still here. My name is John W. Squire Galbraith II, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the committee today and voice my opposition to House Bill 118. Like many residents who spoke today, the bill is personal for me. My grandfather, John Galbraith, bought the beginnings of Darby Dam Farm in western Franklin County in 1935, and I am proud to call Franklin County home to this day. Over the years, developers have approached my family and me to sell our land for commercial use, but we didn't want to see it developed into a shopping center or a mall. Such development would have a negative impact on my neighbors, the community, and Battelle Darby Creek Park, which we're right next to. Battelle Darby Creek Park is a nature preserve with over 7,000 acres of forest and an abundance of wildlife. Much effort has gone into preserving the park, and residents agree that it must be protected. The wrong development could negatively impact the watershed and other elements of the park. That is why I listened to when Invenergy approached me about leasing my land for their Pleasant Prairie Solar Energy Center. After learning more about the project and all the positive benefits it would have on the Big Darby and the local economy, I was convinced that leasing my land for solar was the right decision for my family and my community. My family and I have a long history of environmental stewardship in Franklin County. In 2003, we sold a portion of land to the Metro Parks and made a sizable donation of land as part of the 1,000-acre transfer. We care greatly for the land and take into consideration the environmental impact of any changes on or near the land. We've made the conscious decision to pass the land along to other good stewards of the environment. Invenergy, the solar developer, has gone above and beyond the OPSB requirements to ensure the Big Darby is not negatively impacted by the project. They have committed to a native vegetation management plan that would improve the stormwater drainage and downstream stormwater quality. To put it simply, Pleasant Prairie Solar will prevent runoff and pollutants into the Big Darby Creek that would be there if the land was developed for any other use. And it's a lot less than, for example, the current farming, sod or crop farming that is in the area. It will preserve the land and allow future generations to enjoy it. Also, as you know, once the life of the project is done, the land is restored back to its original use. Now, what other developments can you say about that do this? Since 1935, my family has owned this land, and like any property owner, we are proud to own land that can stay in our family for generations to come. Unfortunately, this bill is blatantly stripping away my rights as a property owner. If you vote yes on this bill, You would be placing the future of my family and my land in the hands of my neighbors, not the property owner, which in this case is 85 years. Early on in the process of leasing my land, I learned about the OPSB and the role they would play in siting the project. From what I learned, the OPSB has one of the most rigorous applications in the country and requires more tests and studies than most states. I applaud the OPSB and their commitment to looking out for the best interest of Ohio residents. With that being said, there is no need for an additional arm of government for siting solar projects in the state. This bill, I believe, benefits big government and neglects the rights of individual landowners. The notion that this bill is for local control is a bit hypocritical. It is stripping away the local control that property owners have, and it places it in the hands of some neighbors and trustees who can stop from leasing my land for no other reason that they don't like solar, despite its immeasurable benefits. And I could list many, and many people have spoke to the benefits today, but that's not the real point or reason for my speaking here today. Imagine being told that you couldn't lease your land simply because your neighbors don't like your plans for it. Like many people have said, you know, if the grain bins get in the way or tractors are creating problems for their neighbors. I believe this law has the potential to be a slippery slope, like many people said. Even if I have a right as a property owner to use my land by right, I don't think it's right for my neighbors to be able to overturn my decision without merit. I should have the right to do with my land what I believe is correct, assuming the use is not harmful or disturbing the environment. We trust that the full-time staff members at OPSB have the expertise, experience, and level of sophistication to evaluate the impact of these projects in Ohio. We respect our part-time township trustees and thank them enough, but know that they don't need the added weight of these sizable decisions on their shoulders. In addition, they are elected every 3 years, and for example, in our township, in Prairie Township this year, two of the 3 trustees are up for election. So once again, it becomes a political process. I encourage you to vote no on House Bill 118. If you care about the rights of property owners, you will vote no. If you care about the Ohio economy and keeping jobs in our state, you will vote no. If you care about the landowners across Ohio that are making the best decisions for their family, you will vote no. Thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Gelbith. We apologize for, I don't remember seeing it in the email, but I'm glad you stuck around, so appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Any questions for anybody? Okay, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody else. You're not going to testify back, are you? Okay. Well, there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned.